In the very first pages of the Bible, the book of Genesis, God says to the first human beings, go forth and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. There are no restrictions on where they're to go. The earth is given to all people. So I think that's the theological foundation, really, of the Catholic Church's approach to immigration. The earth ultimately belongs to everyone. Political boundaries have their utility, but just study history. See how often they have changed, and radically so. Human beings have a right to a stable and secure way of life and the means to support themselves and their families. Most people like to do that where they are from. But if you can't do it there, you have to move on. You have to go elsewhere. So the earth belonging to all people, immigration is a natural human pattern. It just happens throughout the ages. Nothing new in that. Governments, again, they have a right to protect their borders in a sense, but they should, for the good of the people who are living within them, but they also should be generous in assisting refugees and people who simply can't make it anywhere else. It's a compliment to the receiving country that immigrants want to go there. There's something good happening there. So there's really a need to recognize that humanitarian need or to respond from the government side, to let people in so that they can find a better life. Right? Well, during his pontificate, the Pope has shown a real sympathy for immigrants and refugees. Think of his going to that island, I always mix the name up, but Menalusa, something, it's in the Mediterranean. I just can't remember the full name. When boatloads of people had died off the shore of this island. And he prayed with the people who had survived. He just showed a wonderful love for them and mourned with them the loss of their relatives and their friends. He is the son of immigrants. His parents immigrated from Italy to Argentina, and early 20th century, I believe, or late 19th, I'm not sure which, but he's remembered his roots. He will certainly meet on his trip to the United States many immigrants and the children of immigrants. So I think that it comes naturally to him to be interested in it. And the Church has a long experience with receiving immigrants. You think of the history of this country, the English immigrants who came to the state of Maryland in the 1630s, the immigrants who came from France in the 18th century, all through the 19th century, the Germans and the Irish came. Then later in the century, the Poles and the Italians. Early 20th century, the same groups, and the Lithuanians and lots of others. And here in the middle and late 20th century and early 21st, Filipinos and Cubans and lots of other Latin Americans. And in my parish, lots of new African immigrants. It's really been waves and waves of immigrants coming to this country, and the Catholic Church has a very large experience of welcoming them and trying to help them feel at home and to worship often in their own languages and within their own culture while they adjust to things in this country. So I think all of that continues now, and so the Church is responding, the Pope is responding. Every human being is created in God's image and likeness, no matter what the race or the religion or anything. And we're called upon to respect that human being. If we don't respect that human being in God's image, we really don't respect our God either. We can't separate the two. To me, and the empathy is people in need. I think of Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan, so well known. The Samaritan who was the fellow who fell along the road? He got beaten up by the robbers, and then they took all his money and so on. He was a Jew. Jews and Samaritans did not get along. They really didn't like one another at all. But the Samaritan had empathy for this man he found along the side of the road and helped him out. You know, I think the people I meet from other countries, some of them are well equipped to deal with all the strange customs we have in this country, at least strange to them. But others are not, and so reaching out to try to help them to manage learning English. Our school is filled with English learners on Saturday mornings, or to simply negotiate certain customs, how to use the metro rail system in our city of Washington, things of this kind, simple things often. But to out of a concern for them and their well-being, to reach out to them, our brothers and sisters made in God's image and likeness. Well, immigrants come today really for the same reasons they came in the past to this country. My ancestors came from French Canada in the early 19th century, from Ireland in the middle of the 19th century, and from Sweden in the beginning of the 20th century. Why were they coming? They came in some cases to escape political and religious discrimination. That was true of the Irish who came. Others came, they couldn't make a living where they were to support their families. So they came to find a place, farmland in Ohio. My ancestors came down from Canada. Or the ones from Sweden to, again, a better life. That's why they're coming today. People from Central America, there's a lot of violence. There have been some civil wars. They're trying to get away from that, to raise their families in a safer environment. They can't. I've been in countries where the official unemployment rate is 50%, and about 30% more are underemployed. And employment would be running up to a car, stopped at an intersection in a major city, holding out your hand and asking for a coin as you are wiping the window of the car. You know, that's employment. Well, you know, that's why they come. They can't make it in their own countries for political, religious persecution, or they just can't find work that will support themselves and their families. That's why they came in the past. That's why they come today. How do you study the issues? There is some the Catholic Bishops' Conference has some good writings, good articles on these questions. But also most people know some immigrants. There might be parts of the country with very few, but we now have a significant portion of the inhabitants of this country who were born elsewhere, and then their children, often born here, but the children of immigrants. In working with them or living in the same neighborhoods, to get to know them. I was thinking, we've had in our parish international dinner nights. Great fun. People bring the best food from their culture. And if you have Filipinos, make them make food for you. It is wonderful. But they come together and they learn, maybe dances and things like that from their country. It's simple. It could be fluffy. Well, fluff is sometimes good. But it's good. It's substantial, I think. Something else is, how about helping someone learn English? There are a number of groups that support ESOL programs, English as a second or other language. We have that in our parish here. Or citizenship classes, helping people prepare for citizenship. They've got their permanent residency, but they'd like to move on and become citizens of the country they're now living in. These are ways people could help out in a tangible way. And I think always to reject the vilification of immigrants as if there's some kind of a plague that has descended upon the country. They're not. My experience, I've known thousands of immigrants, Latin America, Africa, Vietnam, and Korea. They are basically good, decent people who come here not to cause trouble, but to be able to earn a living and to be in some kind of safety for themselves and their families. Just to respect them and appreciate often what they have gone through to get here, coming up from the south to this country through Guatemala or Mexico. Not an easy trip. The boat people from Vietnam in our country, we got here too. Not an easy trip. Not all of them made it. Remember to think what people went through and respect them for this, the courage that they've shown. They love this country. They're some of our most ardent patriots, really, that I find, So I think to see the human reality, these are real people. For those in the Catholic faith, a lot of them are our brothers and sisters in the faith. They're our people. We should really be glad they're here, So, well, I think the Pope has a very simple and natural personal style that is attractive to people, I think Jesus had that kind of style. I mean, he didn't turn people away. Sometimes what he taught, I don't want that, they leave. But like Jesus, I think the Pope has that kind of very simple, natural style. There doesn't seem to be any front or facade. He's real. People appreciate authenticity, especially I think in our country where we're bombarded by inauthenticity. TV commercials, radio commercials, all this stuff, how real is it? People like someone who comes across as genuine. I think he does. And he speaks sometimes in a colorful, and unusual language. Sometimes it gets him in a little bit of trouble with some folks, but he's making a point. But Jesus, you read the Gospels. Jesus spoke in colorful language. He made all kinds of interesting comparisons, told stories, parables. The Pope has a lot of that in him, I think. I would say, again, respect for the humanity of immigrants among us, and to challenge people who vilify them and just treat them as an abstraction, just a whole body. Are there some bad immigrants? Sure. But are there some bad people who are born here? Look at our jails. They're not filled all with immigrants. And to maybe do what you can to make people feel welcome if they're in your neighborhood or where you work, to respect them. Find out about their culture. There probably is something good that they offer. And just to recognize that throughout our history in this country, even if short-term waves of immigrants have presented a challenge, and they do the church, to public institutions, they do. Long-term, they're a great benefit. They're younger, they're more energetic, they bring often good, strong spiritual values. They're a long-term benefit for this country, which was built from the start on the back of immigrants.